Hearing more today about why Stephen Paddock chose Mandalay Bay. Sources being briefed on the investigation confirm Paddock had access to and used Mandalay Bay's service elevator in the days leading up to the attack.
Tonight, we've learned Stephen Paddock was very familiar with the service elevators in the Mandalay Bay, even riding them with hotel staff days
deadly
before
attack.
the attack.
ABC News has learned Paddock rode the service elevators in the Mandalay Bay several times, even with
MGM
hotel
Resorts
staff.
in Mandalay Bay promised to increase security, especially around the guest and service elevators.
The service elevator is how the 1 October shooter got his weapons into his hotel room. You might think that elevator would be very closely monitored by the hotel, but perhaps not. Testing the security at Mandalay Bay 4 months after 1 October. Independent investigative journalists Laura Loomer and Mike Turber walked right into the hotel's service elevator unchallenged.
Thank you, ma'am.
The two rode the service elevator to the 32nd floor of the hotel and back to the ground floor about 4 times last Thursday. They made their trips at 10 in the evening, the same time 1 October shooter Stephen Paddock opened fire on the crowds below. Police say this is the same service elevator Paddock used to transport his arsenal to his hotel room. No one challenged Paddock as he rode to the 32nd floor, and no one challenged Loomer and Turber.
They never, ever imbibed in any liquor. Their behavior was conservative. Private, understated in every way. You never, ever would stop a man like this coming in the building. Nobody in this company's history knows no public person has ever walked in the service elevator unless they were accompanied by security. Security. Security.
Go up there, service elevator. We're right now at the Wynn. I'm going over to the main valet, and I will go up to the service elevator.
Las Vegas massacre raises new questions about how to prevent these attacks. Joining me now for an exclusive interview, one of the giants of Las Vegas, Steve Wynn, chief executive of Wynn Resorts, who's been thinking about this problem for a long time. Steve, it was over a year ago when you said that Las Vegas was a target city and you were going to harden your hotels and casinos. What did you do?
Actually, it was 2 years ago Thanksgiving, and I got every consultant and advisor I can think of to come through, from Ray Kelly to people from SEALs Team 6. It took us from Thanksgiving until May to develop and institute and recruit a program of counterterrorism, and it'll be 2 years this May. It started in 2015.
And without going into great detail, what kind of things do you have on your facilities?
Basically, we had to recruit and expand security by tens of millions of dollars to cover every entrance, to retrain the entire workforce, from housekeeping and room service, and people are in the tower and observing people. We had to cover every exit and every aspect of the building to see if we could identify and preempt any kind of terroristic or violent action. It's never perfect, of course, but what you can do, to use local vernacular, you can change the odds, I guess.
As you can see, it's not that hard.
So, given all of that, and I know that you had hidden metal detectors and you had profilers in your casinos watching the people walking in and out, would any of those measures have prevented Stephen Paddock from checking into one of your hotels instead of the Mandalay Bay, to have brought in these suitcases carrying his arsenal, a couple of suitcases at a time, checking into a room on a high floor, knocking out the window, and raining terror down on people below?
Well, I know that my friends at MGM are particularly fastidious about trying to protect their employees and their guests. Having said that, there are a couple of things in retrospect, and it's always good to look over your shoulder on these things, but we have a routine with housekeeping, with room service, with audio-visual, anybody that goes in the room to do an inspection. We also have rules about do not disturb. If a room goes on do not disturb for more than 12 hours, we investigate. We don't allow guns in this building unless they're being carried by our employees, and there's a lot of them. But if anybody's got a gun, and we find them continually, we eject them from the hotel.
Well, Mr. Wynn, I am inside your service elevator, buddy.
If he had suitcases carrying these automatic or semi-automatic weapons, would you have been able to spot that if they were in the suitcases being carried up to his room?
Well, we certainly wouldn't invade the privacy of a guest in a room. But let's put it this way. The scenario that we're aware of would have indicated that he didn't let anyone in the room for 2 or 3 days. That would have triggered a whole bunch of alarms here. And we would have, on behalf of the guest, of course, investigated for safety. And it would have been a provocative situation. I'm sure that the same is true at other hotels, but in this hotel, a 36-hour, a 24-hour, a 36-hour do not disturb on a room is a predicate for investigation.
After the shooting last weekend, you started having security at the entrances to your hotels, wand people, inspect bags being brought in. Are you going to keep doing that? And with 20/20 hindsight, the benefit there, have you thought of new measures that you're going to take to try to prevent another one of these massacres from happening, using one of the Wynn resorts as a perch to fire down on thousands of people on the street below?
So back in here and back in.
Well, if I can clear the record, we have been guarding the doors for 2 years, every single day, 24 hours a day. We have magnetometers at any place, at every employee entrance, and at every place of human collection, like the nightclubs. We don't want people at the door. That's not necessary. We profile or inspect or examine everybody that enters the building. And under most circumstances, it's unnecessary to wand people or to do any kind of invasive procedure. The things we're looking for that represent potential threats are much more obvious and allow us a great deal of freedom in allowing us to not interfere with the normal flow of people in and out of the building, which is close to 15 or 20,000 people a day.
I understand that Stephen Paddock had gambled and stayed at your properties along with a lot of other places along the Strip. I know you talked to your security team afterwards. Looking back, after talking to all of them, how much of a profile did you have on him, and was there anything in that profile that should have raised a red flag?
It's an interesting question. He's been staying in Las Vegas since '06. So we're talking about 11 years with his girlfriend, or at least in recent years, frequent visitor once or twice a month to this hotel and others. The most vanilla profile one could possibly imagine. A modest gambler, at least by our standards, nothing serious, paid promptly, never owed any money anywhere in Las Vegas. He didn't fit the profile of a problem or a compulsive gambler. If there was anything interesting that we discovered in the years of service, and we have butlers and waiters and masseuses and people in the beauty shop that know this woman and this man completely. They talk about normal, mundane things. But if there's anything interesting that stood out over the 6 years, nobody that's ever worked here has ever seen the gentleman or the lady take a drink of wine, beer, or alcohol of any kind. Now, a lot of people don't drink, but considering their frequency of all the restaurants and their behavior as normal tourists, taking advantage of everything that's available in our resort, they never ever imbibed in any liquor. Their behavior was conservative, private, understated in every way. You never ever would stop a man like this coming in the building. However, nobody in this company's history, no public person has ever walked in the service elevator unless they were accompanied by security. That wouldn't happen. Secondly,
did he go in the service elevator, Steve?
I'm just saying anything like that. I'm not sure whether he did, but nobody ever goes in the back of the house unaccompanied by security. But another thing, being in a room for 3 days in a do not disturb situation, that would have triggered an alarm here, and would have been considered as a potentially dangerous thing from the guest's point of view, that maybe the person was ill. And we would want to inspect and see that they were safe. We'd go into the room. We'd want to know more about anybody who was sequestered in a room for more than 12 hours. That would be something that our people have been trained to look out for.
Steve, you and I have known each other for some years. You are a very smart man who knows almost everything, has seen almost every aspect of human conduct. Do you have a theory? Do you have an instinct for the big question, why Stephen Paddock did what he did?
No. No.
Yeah, the bowl cut. Bring the front seat, bowl cut. Okay, all right, no, make sure it is. Right there. Yeah, those. Should have been. They weren't supposed to come here. They weren't supposed to come here for the onion soup. But that's what you have right there. So you're good. How'd you like that?
But I have this feeling, Chris. This is a man who behaved rationally, privately, a little introverted, liked to play video poker, but he was a rational man, and every historical review of his behavior indicates that he was a rational man. So was his girlfriend. And yet he prepared, over an extended period of time, a totally irrational act. Now, this sounds like someone either totally demented, a behavior which he never evidenced, or someone who's sending a message. This is a plan. We don't know what that message is, or if there is one, but this behavior, according to my employees, is as stunning, as unexpected as any of them have ever met. And that's the status, that I hear from the sheriff, and watching television. That seems to be the momentary analysis of the situation. I really don't have anything to add to that.
Steve Wynn, thank you. Thanks for your time. And we'll be watching how you and the rest of Las Vegas respond to this terrible tragedy. Thanks again, sir.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. The president did a good job.
Welcome to the jungle.
Is there any indication, or have you seen any evidence that the FBI had knowledge of Stephen Paddock, anything about Stephen Paddock before this happened?
Well, not yet, because we don't have anything released from the FBI or other law enforcement agencies about him, really.
Why is that?
I don't know. I do think that after 30 days, we ought to be having more information than we have right now. For example, we know bits and pieces. We know that he arrived with 10 bags. We know that 2 bellmen helped him carry those bags up. Then we find out that those 10 bags had guns in them, 5,000 rounds of ammunition. We know that MGM claims to have a if you see something, say something policy. And you're telling us that nobody saw those guns over a 5-day period? No maid, no housekeeping, no food service ever saw any of the guns? Nobody saw him using power drills in the hallway. Nobody saw him setting up security cameras. These are all things that need to be answered. I know you've asked the same questions, and so are we.
Some of them, I hadn't even asked some of those questions. How did he get access to the service elevator if, in fact, he used it? Do you know?
We don't know. We've heard 2 separate things. One, that he asked to use it, so they let him. And 2, that since he was a VIP and part of the M-Life program, that he was allowed to have access to the service elevator. Either one, or either way, it's concerning. But more concerning is, how does a bellman haul up 10 bags with heavy, long rifles in them, 5,000 rounds of ammunition? They have this corporate watch center where they allegedly teach their people, if you see something, say something, and nobody says anything. And if they did, what happened with that information? I think that 27 high-powered rifles ought to pique somebody's interest, and that's the questions that we want answered.
Hi, may I speak with Michael Turber, please?
This is he.
Hi, Michael. My name is Samantha Bieber. I'm the Director of Security at the Wynn. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Michael, I'm calling to let you know that we are trespassing you from our property.
Okay.
You will not be authorized to come back, and if you do, we will detain you and notify the police.
Okay.
And have you arrested for misdemeanor trespass.
Okay. And did you want to say anything or comment towards any of the events that occurred because basically we're looking towards helping, and this is going to sound odd, and it's not going to sound truthful, but I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart that it is. We're looking at trying to help people get their security up to the standards that people are expecting. And from a public perspective, what's happening is people are saying things and they're not following through and what have you. And when we go out and we test these things and it becomes true, we are just as amazed as probably people are mad and your side by seeing it, and other people are amazed that this is actually happening. So we're looking for ways to address the problem and solve it.
So my comment, Michael, is that we take our security protocols and our back-of-house procedures very seriously, and you violated those, which is why we've decided to move forward with the trespass.
Okay, well, those were violated, so you could see that there was a problem.
Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't change the...
No, I understand your point, and I want you to understand mine as well. I mean, we're adults, and, you know, I've done this hundreds of times. And in doing so, we do so either with permission of the property owner or without for the bigger picture. And there's two ways to look at this scenario. You can look at it the way that you already have and admonish me for it, or you can look at it and go, hey, we just learned something from this.
So, again, I'm going to say that we take our security protocols very seriously. We take the safety of our guests and our employees very seriously, and I will continue to... Well, at no time was any employee in jeopardy, or was there any harm, or no nefarious activity occurred. So that is not the point. The point is you have a problem in your security perimeter, and I addressed that poignantly. And I had no clue where any of the doors or elevators, that obviously evidenced by the video, were. Excuse me. So, in me going around, I basically pointed out a flaw in your security. I talked to your security guard and gave him my number, my name, and told him that if somebody wants to call me, maybe we can work something out, or we can look at it from a different perspective and see how we can address it and make something good out of it. And that's what this is all about. But, I mean, I'm sorry? I can't hear you. You went on speaker or something. So, Michael, again, there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. Mm-hmm. And the way that had you called me beforehand and we set up this scenario where we contracted you as a vendor to come in and see if you could find your way back out.
And we do that.
Having a completely different conversation, right?
Of course, and we do that, but in this particular circumstance, that was essentially, with Mr. Wynn and the comment that he made, obviously, on Fox News, that was clear. I don't want to say it was a clear challenge. It wasn't a direct challenge to a specific individual or even a challenge directly, but it was a statement that needed to be challenged and to determine if in fact, that, you know, put your money where your mouth is, whatever you want to say, all this other different stuff. But in reality, I'm sorry. Hello? 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 Can you hear me?